NCAA. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. For those of you who don't know, the National Collegiate Athletic Association is a governing body that oversees all student athletes. So there are about 460,000 student athletes, about 1,100 member institutions. Unlike NFL, the NCAA does not have the power to simply say this is what we're going to do. Anything the NCAA does as a result of either Division I, Division II, or Division III voting a recommendation from the NCAA and then implementing it. You may not know that the Office of Chief Medical Officer is new. It's very new. I started January 7, 2013. Before, everything was done through the Health and Safety Unit, which was a few layers below sort of the food line. And so I have a direct report to the COO. Before, there were several layers before that type of report. So it's a different type of emphasis within the NCAA. And one of my charges is to develop a National Center of Excellence, which we have done. It's the NCAA Sports Science Institute. And I have 4 slides. I'm really going to be more philosophical here and try to put things in a somewhat different perspective. But first, I wanted to share with you what our mission and vision is, because I think it's very important to understand that. Our mission is to promote and develop safety, excellence, and wellness in college student athletes, and foster lifelong mental and physical development. So think about those 3 things. Safety, first of all, means that whenever we send a student athlete out on the field, we want to emphasize that there must be safety. That is something much different. They're involved in competitive sport. We strive for excellence. And when you strive for excellence, it means that you're really training at a certain level. And to get to excellence, you're always pushing yourself to a place called the edge. The edge where you come to understand your creative self, physically and mentally. It's also the edge where we fall down. We lift ourselves up. Hope not to fall over the cliff. But excellence. And wellness is also something completely different. Wellness is a state of being, it's a sense of being, and it's something that we're more acutely aware of that we need to really foster in our student athletes. And we want to do this for life. Our statement is a little different. It really shows how we know and understand that we must link to youth sports. Of course, we want to be the preeminent sports science voice for all student athletes in NCAA member institutions. And we want to steward the best practices, not just for collegiate sports, but for youth sports and intercollegiate sports. So one of the most important things we believe that we need to do if we're going to succeed is link with sport. All athletes are student athletes. And NCAA really represents is the student athlete. I wanted to talk a little bit about creating sport from that. We're a country in crisis. We're that we know that physical literacy does not matter. Ourselves to our Canadian neighbors, if you want to get from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3 to grade 4, you must be literate in math, reading, writing, and physical literacy. In our country, you can look at physical literacy and you can look at the obesity rates, and you can't say that there's a causation, but there's a correlation. Our literacy is going way down, our obesity rates are going way up. Sport is part of physical literacy. It builds on physical literacy. Sport is a little different because it involves competition. Competition means that you have rules, and in every rule of sport, you look at any rule of sport, it's arbitrary. Why football field 100 yards? 2 serves for a double fault, in essence, to lose a point. 3 strikes in baseball. Even though there are arbitrariness in the rules of sport, they create a certain sense of what the sport is. What we need to do is look at the 23 sports in the NCAA, and is there a difference between these sports and, say, a sport like boxing? Because I think the goal is to cause concussion. That knockout is, that's what a technical knockout is. There's a sport in the NCAA where the goal is to create a concussion or to cause physical injury. However, we know that there are a lot of physical injuries and there are intentional physical injuries. We know in American football that the helmet being used to protect against skull fracture, we know it can never protect against concussion. It's used as a weapon, which is why I just introduced a few weeks ago a new change that if you actually target someone who's defenseless and you hit them from the shoulder up, it's not an automatic 15-yard penalty. You are ejected from the game for 1 half. So we understand there are rules, and the rules must then be enforced. And in a democratic society, we know that the best way to affect behavior in sport is to change the rules. My slide, and this is what I really want to focus on, what we hope to do in the NCAA is to develop a long-term athlete development program through youth sport with all 23 of our sports. What's long-term athlete development? It may be one of the single most important things that we can talk about. Long-term athlete development means that you don't peak until you're in your 20s. And other than gymnastics, almost all sports, you don't see people peaking until they're in their 20s. Long-term athlete development means that at the base of sport is the development of the human being, and that's an ethics and values-based model. And secondly, the most important thing to develop is athleticism. That's physical literacy. What's done in our society, in culture, is we have become super specialized. We are specializing before the age of puberty. And scientific studies are unequivocal. That not only leads to burnout, dropout, and people not having fun and not participating in sport for life, it also increases the risk of injury, including concussion. Long-term development means that with every sport, you develop the model of humanism, you develop the model of athleticism, then you begin to specialize in a segmental way after the age of puberty. So we start tackling in football. We start throwing a curveball in baseball. When do you start hitting a twist serve in tennis? We now know that there are neurodevelopmental models out there that guide us in that. And we have done work in tennis. The work is being done very, very well in USA hockey. We hope to do that in the other sports in conjunction with the youth sports. But ultimately, if you look at long-term athlete development, it not only is going to lead to a decrease in concussion, because what it does is that everyone has to have buy-in. It's the parents, it's the sports scientists, it's the administrators, it's the coaches, it's the officials. And we have begun that work with the officials and with the coaches. We have the officials, and I know Jeff Triplett spoke with you all in Washington, and we had a half-day meeting the other day. The officials actually should be on the field as a moral authority, not to enforce the rules of play, but to enforce fairness and enforce that this is what we really must be doing in sports. So they have to be involved in injury and injury prevention. The coaches have to buy in. Our society has to buy in. And what the CAA hopes to do is to be one of the leaders to actually shift the person in society. That sport is about something else. Sport is something that's good. Sport is something that must involve long-term athlete development. And sport is something that has to begin at the youth level with a moral, ethical, values-based, and athletic-based curriculum that then moves on to specialization. And at any point along that specialization continuum, you know what you're doing. Not everyone becomes an elite athlete. I played tennis to the point that that's what put me through school. I still compete at the national level and still hope to win national tournaments. Basketball, I stopped at 8th grade, but I still play. I know I won't be an elite basketball player, but I'm a basketball player for life. So the long-term athlete development model allows you to go at any point in time to a certain point of development and to enjoy sport for life. And that's what we hope we're going to be promoting, sport for life for all, and for those who can move to elite sport, that we will help them in that way as well. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Bob Colgate, from the National Federation of State and High School Associations.
Good morning. I thank the committee, first of all, for allowing me the opportunity to address you on behalf of the NFHS and our member state associations. Give you a little quick background about the NFHS because not that very many people know who we are or where we exist. We're situated in Indianapolis. We're actually connected right onto the NCAA. We've been established since 1920. Mission since 1920 is to lead the development of education-based interscholastic activities in fine arts. We're not just strictly athletics. We do work with fine arts activities. We are regarded as the national leadership organization for high school sports and activities. We write the playing rules for 17 sports. There's been mind with this, which sets us a little bit different than the NCAA and some other national governing bodies. We cannot mandate our rules. Our member state associations autonomously adopt our rules and play. So the 17 sports that we write rules for, they adopt those rules, and the vast majority utilize those rules as written. Some become more restrictive or less restrictive on that. The rules writing process is centered on the aspect it's done through committees. We bring in the experts from our state associations and experts in the field of those sports to help generate those rules. The majority of our rules committees are an 11-member committee. Exceptions, football. Football is a 52-member committee. Every state has a voting member on that committee, with exception of 2 states. Texas and Massachusetts do not play by our rules. They play by NCAA rules. So a lot of people do not know or see with that. We're made up of 50 member state high school associations, District of Columbia, which is 51 state high school associations, reach about 19,000 high schools, which of those schools are members of those associations. 11 million participants. That 11 million figure accounts for our fine arts activities, music, play production, speech, and debate, and reach out to about 7.6 million participating in high school sports currently across the country for our member state associations. Our Sports Advisory Committee, this is where we come into play. Their number one priority is to assist in our rules writing process. Our number one goal in our rules writing process is to minimize risk. And with this question of our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee to help assist in that process and look at all the information that's out there and sense of it, heads and tails, what our committee need to look at from a sports medicine perspective when it comes forward. And then also to advise not only our rules committees, our membership, but FHS as we move forward. Just like the work that you're doing today with concussions, we are very interested in that information as it comes forward when you come out with your final report. Our state associations, I'd like to say it's been a goal since I came in 2006 to get every one of them to have a Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. We're not quite there yet. We've got 3 state associations that does not have an active Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. Kansas has one as a consultant. When they have a sports medicine issue come up, they will consult experts in that area to deal with it and to move forward. In North Dakota, do not have Sports Medicine Advisory Committees at this point in time. What we're writing the rules for the NFHS right here, the rules books that come out for our playing officials, for our coaches, for everyone involved in the sport. You can see the 17 sports that we write the playing rules for. Some are sports that a lot of our state associations do utilize, may not come from here. We do not write the rules for golf, skiing, some of the other sports there, bowling. Those are outside. But what you see on the screen right now is what we specifically write the rules for. Those are written on a yearly basis. We do not have a 2-year period. We read the rules, evaluate them with our rules committees, and those rules committees meet on an annual basis. Our rules books, and I think this is something that is of interest to you. We've had language dealing with concussions in our rule books for all of our sports. But back in 2010-11, we standardized that language. And in the language that we had in place, we wanted to look at what would evaluate and deal with concussions. And so what you see here is the same language that we've got in all of our rule books dealing with concussions. Dr. Comstock, I think, has presented to you before. We do utilize Dr. Comstock and her National High School Sports Injury Surveillance Study as the injury surveillance portion to assist the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee and our rules committees as we move forward, looking at minimizing risk. couple things that have come to note. When we look at athlete exposures and the data here, our rules are written for competition only, varsity level athletes. We do not write the rules or regulate practice. That's left up to our state high school associations. When we look at the time frame here from when the study incepted back in 2005, and look at all competition and practice, this has a major impact on our rules writing. The one thing we do not want to see is anything trending up. Then we have to look at what changes we may or may not have made in our rules that need to impact that. Trauma concussions that we've seen with our injury data since 2005, about 9% of all of our sports injuries encompasses with concussions. It equates about 140,000 concussions on a yearly basis at the high school level. When we look at the breakdown of the concussions here, no surprise, football is where the majority, girls soccer, into boys wrestling is where we're seeing the majority at our high school level. This pie chart really has not changed too much, fluctuates just a little bit from what we've seen when we put this together from 2008 through 2012. Into looking at the concussion injury rates per 10,000 athlete exposures going all the way through, it is peaking a little bit right now. But if you also look where it started trending up from about 2008, 2009, that's when we saw the concussion legislation come into play across the country. Our return to play guidelines coming into play. We're getting better reporting right now, which we're seeing that trend or that uptick right now coming into play, which we are monitoring. Close watch here about that same time on the football concussion rate. Hasn't quite as increased as much on the overall, but we've seen it specifically in the competition side, where we're really putting emphasis on removing these individuals in play. They are not to continue to play if they've sustained a concussion. The takeaway on this that we have seen, yes, everything's trended up on the concussion reporting. The other thing we've seen starting to trend down a little bit is those individuals being returned same day of competition. That's gone. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in 2011-12. We will monitor that in 2012-13. Who removed the concussed athlete from play? We started monitoring this the last 2 years, looking at this. Majority of the certified athletic trainer. We know not all of our schools have the services of a certified athletic trainer. That percentage has increased with our educational efforts there. The one that's a little bit kind of the gray area there has got us a little concerned, the individuals that continue to participate. They've not been removed. We've got to shrink that area. We've got to decrease that. And the black area that we see right there on the graph shows to be other appropriate healthcare professionals, maybe docs on the sidelines removing the individuals, parents and such. We went with a concussion online course, kind of out the front of this when the concussion legislation was coming forward with the aspect of the educational component. We've delivered 725 courses since this has come out in May 2010. We're at about 806,000. I was just updated as I was en route to this meeting right now. Developed by our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. The vast majority of our state associations do utilize this component in there as a part of the laws that may have come out for their state. It's very general. It's a free online course. It's about 20 minutes in the making. Research with it. We teamed up with the American Red Cross on a health and safety course, first aid, health and safety. We do have a section of that in there dealing with concussions. On equipment in, both us and the NCAA, we don't test equipment. It's left up to the manufacturers to develop equipment that can comply with our rules and also going to be designed not to increase risk. Our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, the last couple items here to bring you up to date on all of our rule books. We do have this in the appendix dealing with concussion management for our coaches and coaches. We've come out with a Sports Medicine Handbook, the 4th edition, coming out with the 5th edition next year. We've distributed this year, every time we come out with this handbook, it is distributed free of charge to all of our member state high school associations and all 19,000 high schools across the country. There is a concussion chapter in the book. This book's written by our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. We do position statements that are on our website. We've got one dealing with the management of concussion in sports and a parent side. These are being currently reviewed and revised. They'll probably, hopefully, be finalized this coming weekend when our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee meets. High School Day. We use this as a source to our membership across the country. Distribute this to about 75,000 across the country. This goes to superintendents, school board presidents, athletic directors, and principals. Utilize this to share articles that come out in the sports medicine setting with our schools. And our final items here, future direction, what we're working on as we move forward here, we're monitoring state and full concussion legislation. Vast interest there, how that's going to not only impact the NFHS, but all of our member state high school associations. Education, the research that's coming out there, very important. We try and disseminate that to our membership. We get a lot of inquiries about that. We're looking at our playing rules, how we can minimize risk, not only for concussion, but all injuries there, and the equipment that's coming out. We have a huge concern about equipment right now. The products that are out there that claim they can reduce concussions, third-party aftermarket products, is of huge concern to us right now because of the claims that are being made. We need a lot of assistance in that area right now at the national level. Injury, surveillance, and concussion research going forward, which everyone's talked about here, we've got a vast interest in that to see what we can do to minimize that risk. And the last area, which is seeing more research on this, but this kind of closes the gap between sports and academics, is the academic accommodations for sports-related concussions. We need more information on this and more help with that, because when an individual sustains concussion and they have to be returned back to the classroom, there's that disconnect right there. We need assistance in that area to assist our teachers and athletes so they can work together on that. I'm happy NFHS, our 50-member state high school associations. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in this area, and we look forward to your final report. Thank you.